As part of our 35th anniversary celebration, I thought that I would reach out and commission a hymn in honor of the 35 years and in recognition that we have more time yet in front of us. And so I reached out to my good friend, John Thornberg, who has not only been a writing partner with me over the years, but himself is retired, ordained clergy here in the North Texas Conference and was the head of the North American Hymn Society for a number of years. And because of his rich history in the North Texas Conference, I thought he could encapsulate where we have been and where we are going. And so I invited Bob Reed to give us a reading of this hymn that we've commissioned, and John to give you a little background, and then together we'll sing about it.
In the search for open spaces, in a time not long ago, God, the sculptor of the prairie, chose a place where love could grow. Then God sent a skillful gardener, armed with implements and dreams, called to scout and then to measure, charged to excavate and sow.
One of the lovely challenges of a hymn commission for a church anniversary is to help the congregation see itself and its history in the text. But because this occasion is both the anniversary of the church's first worship service and about the extraordinary ministry of Robert Hasley, I also wanted you to see him in the text. Because denominations use the terminology of church planting when a church is begun, the image of a garden planted here on the prairie of North Texas seemed a promising way to go. After all, this part of Plano was mostly grass in the early 80s. But if there is a garden, then there has to be a gardener. I feel privileged that I got to see the gardener's first shed, the trailer that was parked on Preston Road, announcing that there would soon be a church here. I feel yet more privileged that I knew the gardener with whom I shared time at Perkins School of Theology. And I'm glad that the people of Highland Park United Methodist Church, Dallas, could imagine a church here and were willing to let one of their beloved clergy go so that he could do some gardening up this way.
As the seedlings searched for sunlight, bursting through the rock and clay, God sent workers to the garden, charged to nurture, prune, and pray. Those first called to tend and shape it learned the planter's wondrous dream, then equipped to plant new visions, they embarked upon the way.
Robert started to plant God's hopes and dreams, and seedlings began to sprout. As central as Robert was to the planting of this church, he needed co-workers. And responding to the call of God to build a new community, people came by the hundreds. I tried to put an image of Plano in line 1 of this stanza, since you find a lot of rock and clay when you dig around here. I'm so grateful to the people who responded to Robert's invitation to join in the building of this new faith community. In the expression nurture, prune, and pray, I tried to indicate that caring for each other, holding each other accountable, and surrounding each other with prayer are always crucially important to a new church. But I really don't want you to miss how I work the name of your church into the text without using the word St. Andrew. In line 3, I refer to those early leaders of this congregation as the first called. This is the literal translation of the Greek word protokletos, which was the name given to the apostle Andrew by the early church. I want you also to notice that I've used the uppercase P for planter. That's to make certain that we're all clear that the dream of St. Andrew's ministry is God's dream. God is the planter. Robert, wonderfully assisted by so many others, is the gardener. That's why gardener in stanza 1 is lowercase g.
Plant in us a well and fountain, a deep confidence in you. Cultivate our sense of wonder and our trust in all you do. Then employ us, make us fruitful, turn us outward in your name. Fill us with your holy purpose, that all things will be made new.
An anniversary causes us to look back with gratitude and forward with anticipation. So what's true no matter which way we're looking? What's true is that we have God who is both well, that is the source of life-giving water, and fountain, the delivery system for the water. The word in stanza 3 I'm most eager for you to embrace is the word wonder. In the line, cultivate our sense of wonder. Friends, the shape and purpose of religious communities in America are both undergoing radical change. And we must be attentive to what God is doing, rather than simply assuming that the way we have always done church is the way we'll do it forever. Because we sometimes act as though we know better than God what ought to happen in our churches, we must step back on occasion and ask, God, what are you doing among us? Just as God was the one who searched the prairie for a prime location, and just as God was the one who raised up Robert as your leader, and just as God was the one who has always energized the mission of this church, it will be God on whom we must depend. This congregation's future exists to make God's purpose real. We'll only be ready to fulfill that purpose if we pause long enough to watch the wondrous activity of God in our midst. Amen.
To sing together the words that we've heard and the reasons why the words exist in the first place. The thing that makes me probably the happiest about this commission is that this hymn could be used by any church celebrating any milestone, 10 years, 5 years, 30 years, 150 years. And so this is not just our gift that we sing, but our gift that we sing for the world, and hopefully one day the world sings back with us. You can remain seated as we sing together in the search for open spaces.